In the previous episode, in order to build this kind of loaf from the future, we bought a donor vehicle, from which we only needed the platform with all its components. That's why we cut off the entire body and ended up with this. That was what the previous episode was about. And in this episode, we'll build the frame, and the project will finally start to take shape. Enjoy watching. The main structural frame will be made from metal profiles. That's what we're cutting to the required size. Well, how is it necessary? Considering that everything will be redone a couple of times during the process, we're just cutting it to some size for now. To make sure we don't end up with a greenhouse on wheels, the sides need to be a bit oval, which will definitely improve the overall look. And overall, the car will actually look like a car. As you might have guessed, we don't have a pipe bender yet, but we do have Russian ingenuity. With the help of hydraulics and two supports, we make a curved profile. As you can see, the method worked, and all the elements are absolutely identical. These will be our uprights. Now we need to make the side panel out of the uprights. To do this, we cut out these triangles or pyramids, call them whatever you like. With their help, we'll create the curvature. Just a little more patience, and you'll see what I mean. After the triangle is carefully put in place, we then proceed to meticulously mark the shape with precision using a template, and afterwards, we slowly and carefully cut along the drawn line. This is exactly how we gradually and smoothly round off the rectangular profile. To make everything perfect, we need to close off the end, a caliper, a compass, a sheet of metal, and 20 minutes of work. As a result, we have this kind of structure, which needs to be leveled and then fixed directly to the platform. To do this, we clean up the frame of our donor, since this is what we'll be welding the framework to. next step is to now carefully use a laser level to set the base of the side panel. This element could probably be called the threshold, and we weld it in place. We repeat exactly the same procedure on the other side, and our thresholds look like this. Once we have perfectly aligned thresholds in terms of both symmetry and level, we can then begin carefully assembling the frame of the side panel, which is precisely what Andre is doing right now. We take control measurements, and in the end, everything really lined up perfectly. All thanks to the laser level and a little bit to Andre. Since the roof will be completely panoramic, we'll be sure to keep the top crossbars to an absolute minimum. We've also made them just slightly curved to give the roof a bit more volume, but we'll talk more about that in another episode. Once we have the clear boundaries of the body, it's time to install the wheels. This is so we can make the arches and overall get the finished outline around the entire perimeter. As I said, the whole car is being built around the wheels. Since there is no 3D model for this project, the only precise measurement we were able to calculate was the size of the wheels. And based on that, we're designing the dimensions of the body. In the end, we went with 22-inch two-piece wheels. By the way, most tire shops simply refuse to mount them for us. But eventually, we found some guys who just don't believe in impossible tasks. And they managed to get it all done in just about 15 minutes. As a result, we have these so-called slippers now, which we'll be refining and improving further. They'll end up looking completely different in the end. But that's another story for another time. For now, we're just carefully putting them on. Of course, these wheels definitely don't fit the stock hub at all. That's exactly why we went to a secret master craftsman to have custom spacers made. This is just a temporary solution. Everything will be redone later on. But for now, in order to work on the body, we first need to carefully get the wheels in place. An old metal pipe, as long as it has the right diameter, will serve perfectly well as a space. We cut it as straight as possible, with great care, and then carefully finish it on a lathe. The next step is to take these discs, which were ordered in advance, and weld them into the pipe using this simple device that makes positioning much easier. We insert it and realize that someone made a mistake with the measurements, and now we have a 5mm gap all around the perimeter. After that, we head back to the secret master to find out how this could have happened. It turned out that the blanks had been lying in the sun for a long time, and they shrank. At least, that's what the lathe operator said. But to solve this problem, he gave us a handful of nanorods, which, according to him, neutralize the metal shrinkage. And that's what we agreed on. As you've probably realized, this is a spacer adapter. That's why, on one side, we have a bolt pattern that fits the wheels, and on the other, one that fits the hub. And after a day of work and a handful of nanorods, we have 4 of these spacers, which we still have to somehow manage to put in place. By the way, since you're watching this video, it means you're interested in building a bukhanka. So, our colleagues on the Mashanatori channel have started a similar project. They're building a bukhanka like this one. The first episode was released recently. I'll leave a link in the description and personally recommend their channel, since I watch it myself with pleasure and find a lot of useful things in their content. everything worked out just as planned. Everyone's happy, especially the wheel seller, since we could have returned the wheels if they didn't fit. That was the agreement. So the wheels of the right size and with the right offset are in place. Now we can work on the wheel arches and be confident that we won't have to redo them. Although with this kind of work, you can never be completely sure of that. Relying on our previous experience, when we bent the pillars and got a great result, we decided to bend the arches ourselves as well. We cut the profile of the required cross-section and, using this kind of tool, tried to bend the arch. Basically, after a day of work and a pile of ruined profiles, we end up in a workshop where professionals have been doing this for a long time. 15 minutes later, we have these rings, which, with a quick swipe of the angle grinder, turn into arches. The next day, we decided to roll the car outside to take a look at the proportions and scale in an open area, because it's hard to objectively assess the scale in the workshop. Yes, the proportions look a bit strange for now, but that's because the outline, meaning the profile, is thin all around the perimeter. Later on, it will be 2.5 times wider, and everything will come together. At least, that's what we're counting on. According to the plan, the windshield will be completely panoramic, all the way down to the floor, so the partition you see here will be removed later. It was only needed to position the two sides, and here you can clearly see that the side has a slightly curved shape, just as I mentioned earlier. And as you can see, all the pillars have an absolutely identical shape, which is very important for future work. The next stage will be working on the doors. In order for the door opening width to match the design specifications when the doors are open, we need to weld the profile around the entire perimeter. This width will exactly match the width of the decorative trim, so when the door is open, everything will look factory made. I'd also like to remind you that projects like this only become reality thanks to your support. You do a great job helping to promote this. Thank you so much. And your like and a long comment will definitely help this video get more views. But most importantly, share the video anywhere you can. Thank you for watching, and may you have good vibes and a trusty axe.